This is why I'm so passionate about this book and this topic of memberships, because recurring revenue, it eliminates that stress. You are not worried about where the next sale is going to come from, because you'll know with certainty that you'll be getting paid at the beginning of every month by this number of people.
Hey everyone, welcome to Time to Thrive. This is your host, Bethany Meadows. I am so excited about this guest today, and I know you're going to get a lot out of him. Stu McLaren is a leading expert in membership-based business models, co-founder of Wishlist Member, and the creator of the Tribe Experience. He empowers entrepreneurs to transform their passions into thriving memberships while building financial freedom and impact. A dedicated philanthropist, Stu also founded Village Impact, which supports educational initiatives in developing countries. With his innovative strategies and commitment to purpose-driven business, Stu has helped thousands achieve success in growing sustainable, community-centered ventures. Welcome to the show, Stu.
Thanks, Bethany. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I was telling you before the show, I'm just so excited to have you because when someone, reached out to us about having Stu McLaren, I was like, I know him. I know that name. So I'm excited to have you because I love your energy. And I know you just have a wealth of information that our listeners are going to appreciate. So like always, we have our super random question. So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 5.
1 and 5. Let's go 5.
5. Ooh, this is a good one. Who is the best female role model in your life?
Whew, man. I've had some good ones, really good ones. Okay, can I give multiple, Bethany?
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
I would definitely say my mom is right at the top of the list.
Oh, you would be dead meat if you did not. Mom, top 5.
My mom, both my parents, I'm incredibly close with. And they are actually the reason I became an entrepreneur, because when we grew up, nobody worked harder than my parents. My dad worked 9 to 3 in a school with kids with autism. And at night, he worked 8 at night till 8 in the morning, 4 nights a week in a group home with people with special needs. And my mom, she was the same way. She worked in an elementary school 9 to 3 with kids with autism.
Wow.
And then the 3 nights that my dad wasn't working, she worked in a fine dining restaurant. So my parents worked really, really hard, and but yet we weren't the most financially successful. And so I knew when I hit around 12 years old, it was like the math wasn't mathing. It's like nobody works harder than my parents, yet we're not the most financially successful. What gives? And so it was then that I really started to, tune in to becoming an entrepreneur. But one of the things that I'm so incredibly grateful to of my mom is that she found whatever way that she could to support me and my sister and the things that we wanted to pursue. And, my parents were at every soccer game and basketball game and track meet, and even though they worked, all these crazy hours. And, for me, that as a father now, I have so much more respect and admiration for all that they poured into my life. So my mom's definitely right at the top of my list. And then the second person is actually my wife. And the reason I say that is like all the charity work that we do, that is all her genius. And she really opened my eyes to the impact that we can have as entrepreneurs. Before, this may sound weird to, people watching and listening, but I used to feel really guilty about making money. And I think it came from a lot of my upbringing. We didn't have money. And so once I started making a lot of money, it was like my subconscious was like, whoa, Stu, like this is way too much. Like I had the whole doubts of whether I was worthy of it and all that kind of stuff, not knowingly, but it was happening on a subconscious level. But my wife changed all that for me, because what she taught me was like the impact that we can have as entrepreneurs. And after we built our very first school in Kenya, that's when I realized like the more money we make, the more impact we can have. And that's when I realized like making money is a really good thing. Like universe, I love making money, because the more money we make, the more good we can do. So those are the 2 women for sure who had the biggest influence in my life, my mom and certainly my wife.
both very smart choices on your part. I love that. And I certainly see where your passion for education has come from. You know,
Mm,
your raised were people who were really committed to it. So I love that. So let's talk a little bit about your backstory, and then we'll kind of get into the membership business model.
sure.
How did you first, like, what were you doing that got you interested in that membership-based business?
Well, I had a service-based business and it was going really well. And I had great, set of clients. I was, doing about mid six figures in that business. Everything was great. But what happened was I had this realization. I had just gotten married to my wife, Amy, and this was in 2007. And we were starting to think about starting a family. And what I was realizing was that I was working a lot. Like I was up early, I was up late, I was burning the candle at both ends. And it was just because I was just driven. I just wanted to take really good care of my clients, and then clients were referring clients and I'd get more clients, and I was at the beck and call of my clients.
Right.
Um, I was getting paid well for it, but at the same time, like my schedule was not my own. And I realized, like, if I wanted to be a present father and a present husband, something had to change. So I was talking to a friend of mine about this dilemma, and I was just saying, like, I got a really great business, but I can't grow because the only way to grow is to give more time, and I don't have any more time to give. And he said, well, why don't you take all the things that you're doing for your clients and just start teaching other people about what you're doing inside of a membership? And I said, well, what's a membership? And he said, well, think about it this way. You would teach one time, but yet hundreds or thousands of people could benefit from it, and they would be paying you every single month to access those new trainings. And I was like, interesting. So
Mhm.
this was 2008. Well, the technology back then was not what it is today. And I got caught up in things like server settings and HT access files and like stuff that's like way above my pay grade. And so I was moaning and groaning to a friend of mine. And ultimately, he said, well, Stu, why don't you just create your own solution? And Bethany, I remember like I'm talking to him on the phone and I'm like, is he even like listening to me? Like I'm sitting here telling him I'm having technical trouble and he's telling me I should go develop a solution. And so I said to him, I'm like, dude, I am not a developer. Like I'm telling you I'm having technical challenges. There's no way I can go and develop something. And he said, well, why don't we team up? He said, I've got an amazing developer that works with me. You're pretty clear on what you would want. And so we came together and we created the world's #1 membership solution for WordPress, and it's called Wishlist Member. And it just took off. And within months, we were powering tens of thousands of memberships. When I sold my shares in that company, we were powering over 70,000 online communities and memberships. And so being behind the scenes of that, that's when I realized, I could see what was working and what wasn't working for membership sites that were growing and the majority that were flatlined and or stalled. And so I started paying attention to the few that were growing year over year. And that's when I started to see and uncover the few things that really work to grow a profitable membership. And so since that time, I've been teaching tens of thousands of small business owners and entrepreneurs how to launch and grow their own memberships in all kinds of different markets, from photography and calligraphy to fitness, finance, music, art, health, dog training, you name it. And since then, I have founded a new company called membership.io. And that's the world's, I'm very biased, the world's best membership platform. And then I just authored a brand new book called Predictable Profits, which is all about how to launch and grow a profitable membership.
I know that's an amazing journey. And, a lot of times we'll watch YouTube videos or we'll see, people talking at conferences or whatever, and they tell their origin story. And to the person who's still on the front end of their journey, they were like, wow, that was so easy for them.
Mm.
But it's not easy, right?
No.
It isn't an easy journey. So let's balance it out with what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome?
Well, I would say one of the biggest challenges was, I would say midway through my career when I, with my first software company, we were growing and it was a multi-million-dollar a year business. I had a great business partner, a great team, but something just didn't quite sit right, Bethany. I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't explain it, but it was a feeling like this wasn't the final thing. This wasn't like what my ultimate thing. It was a step in the right direction, but it wasn't the thing. And I remember I was at a summer camp with my wife and then daughter. She was just a wee little thing. She was like 4 years old at that point. And we're staying in this cabin, and there's no it was out in the middle of nowhere type thing. So we're out in this cabin. It is pouring rain and at nighttime, and I'm lying beside my wife, and I can't flip a light switch on because I'd wake my wife and daughter up. And I'm just lying there in darkness with my thoughts. And that's a really dangerous place to be. But I had a couple things happen right before we went to camp. One, that I read the book, The One Thing, which is a brilliant book. Yeah. And it's really centered around helping you get clear around what's the one thing that's really going to move the needle for everything in your business, in your life. That combined with another book that I had just read called Essentialism, which had similar themes. And then a presentation that I had watched from a good friend of mine, Michael Hyatt, which was all about creating your legacy. So all of this information swirling around in my head, plus with this feeling this current business I've got is not quite it. And my wife wakes up and she could see that I'm wide awake and something's going on in my mind. She said to me, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, but I think that I've made a pretty big decision." And she said, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Well, I think I want to sell my business." And she said, "Interesting." She said, "Tell me why." So then I unpacked, all the thoughts that were going through my head. And she said in that moment, she said, "Okay." She's like, "Look, I believe in you. Let's do this."
Oh, that's the best.
Oh, huge. But in that moment, Bethany, I was filled with all kinds of self-doubt. It's was I going to put my family in financial jeopardy in making this decision? Was this business a one-hit wonder? Would I be able to repeat my success? Would people still want to do business with me if I'm no longer associated with this? All these fears and doubts. Yeah. But that was a pivotal moment because although I didn't know what ultimately I was going to create, I was very clear that this was not the right thing. And the only way to get to where I wanted to was to create the space to be able to, essentially receive what that next idea was going to be. And that was a scary moment. And I think that I'm proud of myself in that moment because I had the courage to move forward. But that was definitely a challenging moment, because there was so much uncertainty and I didn't know what it ultimately was going to end up being like. But, thank goodness it turned out okay.
Yeah. One of the challenges of entrepreneurs is that we have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And they come fast and furious and often, and we don't have the time to act on all of them. And so being able to have the clarity to drill down into, the swirl of thoughts that you are having and get that clarity to how to move forward, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And sometimes we may not know what we want, but we'll be very clear about what we don't want. And that can be a clue, sometimes sometimes you got to listen to that and just ask yourself, okay, well, what's the opposite? Or you got to start taking a step in a direction. I'll give you a good example. I'm not going to mention her particular name because, I don't want to call her out, but one of my wife's friends has been talking about starting a business for a long time. And she keeps giving every reason under the sun not to move forward right now. And all that is just fear. It's just fear. Yeah. She's trying to wait for that perfect moment, that perfect time when all the stars line up and everything is perfect. There's never a perfect time and a perfect moment. You just got to get going and you just got to start taking a step in a direction. And that's where the clarity comes from. And so
having a kid, never a perfect moment.
Exactly.
You're never going to be able to afford it. You're never going to have the time.
But you'll figure it out. You know what I mean?
Figure it out. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about membership, the membership model. What does that look like, and who is it for? Who should be thinking about this? Because I think it's for more people than people realize.
Yeah.
Like, you can have a regular model business of some kind and have a membership as well.
100%. Okay,
Yeah.
let's play a little game. We'll go back and forth first.
Okay.
So let's talk about things that you are paying for on a monthly basis.
Oh,
What
so
first comes
many.
to mind?
So many. Software, for one.
Software.
Yeah, our agency spends it's a big line item for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Software or social media management, project management, yeah,
And
all the things.
Let me guess, Bethany, you are likely, for many of them, paying on a per user basis. So if you've got multiple people on your team, you're paying for multiple people per month to access that software. Am I right?
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So what else? What else are you paying for on a monthly basis?
Well, on a personal level, I have no debt, no mortgage, so I'm not paying anything there.
That's great. Awesome.
So, we have groceries. Oh, we do have a meal box subscription.
Okay. Meal box. Okay. So talk to me about that. Like what's getting delivered every month?
So every week we get a box full of ingredients and 3 recipes. And there's just the 2 of us now. All the kids are grown and gone. So I cook for 4 people, and then we eat the other 2 meals the next day for lunch. So we
amazing.
So it gives us 3 dinners, 3 lunches that I don't have to think about, and we can experiment with food that we might not otherwise try.
That's amazing. That's a great, that's a great service, right? Like
and chickpeas. Turns out I like them. Who knew?
But it saves you a ton of time, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a great example. Like, people probably watching and listening are thinking, if you had Netflix or Spotify, those are, memberships that we're paying for on a regular basis. Any subscriptions to magazines or online subscriptions to like the New York Times as an example. Like, these are all examples of memberships that we're paying for on a regular basis. And so my point in asking you that is that I just want to open people's minds to the fact that memberships are all around us. We're paying for them on a regular basis. And so many businesses are shifting to this model. And the reason is because it creates tremendous stability. Like, instead of hoping that customers come back and buy from us next month, we know with a membership model, we know with certainty that people will be paying us at the beginning of every month, no matter what. And I'll give you a real simple example that's like a brick and mortar business. So across from our office is a relatively new car wash. When it was being built, we were curious as to, what business was, being built there, and it ended up being a car wash. And then one day, one of the guys comes into the office and he says, "Hey, have you seen how they're charging?" And I said, "No." I said, "What's the big deal?" He's like, "It's a membership." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." So of course, I'm super curious. The car wash has been up for about a month now. So I go over and I ask him about it. And they had a brilliant business model. You could go through the car wash one time for $10, or you could pay $12 a month and go through an unlimited number of times. It was like a no-brainer to sign up for the membership. So I signed up for the membership. And as I'm signing up for the membership, I asked the girl, I said, "This is crazy." I said, we teach people about memberships, and here you got a car wash that's a membership. She said, "Yeah." I said, "How many members have you had sign up?" She said, "It has been absolutely bonkers." She said, "In the first month, we've had about 3,000 people sign up." I was like, "Oh my gosh, 3,000 people. That's a lot of people." So
they just covered their overhead.
Yeah, exactly. So then, now I got my membership. So I'm going through the car wash all the time. My car is looking spick and span. My wife says to me, "Why is your car so clean all the time?" And I tell her about the car wash. And she said, "Well, can you just take my car through?" And I said, "No, babes, my membership is for my car. I can't just, transfer it over to your car." She said, "Well, can you get a membership for me?" I said, "Oh, sure." So then I go and I get a membership for her. And I'm talking to the girl again. And I said, how many memberships you up to now? She said, about 4,500. So time out. Let's just take a pause and think about this for a second. Every other car wash in the city is hoping that people come back and go through their car wash again. This car wash, however, because they made the decision to create a membership, they now know with certainty that at the beginning of the month, they are going to get paid by 4,500 customers. And so what does that do? It creates confidence for the business owner in terms of knowing how much money you have to be able to spend on advertising, to hire a team, all of those things. And so a membership model can be applied to so many different businesses. And I'm happy to break down like the main 4 types if you want me to do that.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first type is what we would call a product-based membership. So this is where you take like a physical product that people would normally come into a store or order online. And instead of hoping that people buy it again, we set up a membership where it gets delivered on a regular basis. And there's tons of examples. If anybody's ever belonged to like the Dollar Shave Club, this was one of the very first product-based memberships that really took off. And what they realized was that like, it's an awkward situation to go into like the stores and buy razors. Because normally like they're behind like a lock and key kind of thing. And you got to go ask somebody to, hey, can you open the thing so I can get the razors? Like it's like a whole thing. And so what they said was, let's just make it easy. Like, let's just send razors on a monthly basis and people pay a monthly fee. Easy peasy, pudding and pie. That's
we do this on Amazon. So we have the dog treats, the vitamins, all the things that we use regularly and run out of. It's just on a recurring.
See, Bethany, we're starting to discover more and more of your memberships as we go through this.
True. I hadn't thought about it, but yes.
But that's a perfect example, right? So those are product-based memberships. They're, sending the same product. It may be the same, maybe slightly different. Like we were talking about subscription boxes. This would fall under that category too, right? Where, you're sending a box of things, to your clients and customers each and every month. But that's a product-based membership. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be a service-based membership. The car wash would fall under this category. Or I think of Mary Claire Fredette from our community. She's a massage therapist. Rather than hoping clients come back and get a massage, she set up a simple membership. They pay a monthly fee and they get a certain number of massages each month. Now, when she set this up and did her founding member launch, she filled up right away. Fast forward 3 years, I was catching up with Mary Claire and I was asking her about it. And I said, hey, have you launched again? And she said, no. And my heart kind of sank initially. I was like, oh no, like what's going on? Yeah. And she said, Stu, I haven't had to. She said, 80% of the people that signed up 3 years ago are still paying me every single month for that service. And so if we think about services, this can be applied in a variety of different ways. I've seen it with massage therapists. I've seen it with barber shops. I've seen it with hair salons. I've seen it with like, for the ladies, like the blow dry, salons, like all these kinds of services, nail salons, they can all be set up in the same way. And what that does, again, is it just creates certainty for the business owner. So number 1 is product-based memberships. Number 2 is service-based. Number 3 would be information-based memberships. This is where you're teaching people something. This is the playground that I love to play in the most because they're the fastest, easiest type of membership to get up and going. But what we're doing is we're either helping people solve an ongoing problem. So an example of that would be like weight loss. Somebody's not going to go from being overweight to their ideal weight like that. That's a problem that takes time to solve. Perfect for a membership. Or like dog training. Like you're not going to go from a wild and crazy puppy to the perfect puppy like that. It takes time to solve that problem. Perfect for an information-based membership. So number 1 is solving a problem. Number 2 would be teaching a skill. So again, you're not going to go from not knowing how to paint to becoming a great artist like that. It takes time to learn those skills, or playing an instrument, or growing a business. There's so many different skills that take time to learn. That's what makes them perfect for an information-based membership. So product-based, service-based, information-based. And the last one is a community-based. This is where people pay on a regular basis to be part of a community of people just like them. This is one of the greatest things that the internet has brought us, and that's the ability to connect with people no matter what our crazy passions and interests are. There is somebody somewhere in the world that shares a similar passion and interest. I grew up in a small town, corn on one side, cows on the other. And so if you had an interest that was not farming, you were like this outcast. And so today, though, it's so amazing. Like, you could have these crazy interests and you can find other people. And if you as a business owner create a community to bring those people together, people will happily pay on a regular basis to be able to have access to that community. So product-based, service-based, now information-based, and a community-based membership. Those are the four.
Okay, so somebody out there is listening and they're like, you know what? I could do this. I have, something to share in one of those categories that I think solves a problem that people would want to be part of or make sense for my business. What are some common mistakes to avoid? Give us the benefit of your wisdom and experience so we can avoid those mistakes right from the beginning.
Yeah, great question. So the first mistake a lot of people make is waiting way too long before they actually launch the membership. We talked about my wife's friend who is basically in her own way. She's coming up with every reason why she should delay starting. And that's the number one mistake that a lot of people make. With a membership, we got to realize is that a membership is like a living, breathing organism. It is always evolving based on your members' needs. So the fastest path to developing the best membership is to start working with people, to sell your membership as early as possible and just get a few members in the beginning if need be, but just really focus on helping them and serving them toward getting whatever result that they're after. Because in that experience is where you're really going to learn how to show up and serve. And that is going to massively increase the progress that you make as a membership site owner. So that's number one, is just waiting too long. But the second mistake is creating too much content or providing too much. What we got to realize is it's a balance between people being able to learn and actually consume and implement. And if all we do is just load people up with more and more and more, we end up overwhelming them. And overwhelm is the number one reason that people cancel. So even if you think of a product-based membership, if people aren't actually consuming and using the products that they're paying for on a regular basis, they're going to start stacking up. And they're going to be like, I'm wasting money here. There's no sense in me staying subscribed. So it's a balance between providing enough content and information as well as supporting people in the implementation of it. So if we think about your meals that get delivered every week, Bethany, if you're not actually eating those meals and those things are starting to stack up, you and your husband are going to be like, why are we paying for this thing? We're not using it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
or it starts going bad in the fridge.
It starts going bad. And then you start feeling guilty about paying for something that you're not using. And it's the same thing, whether it's a service-based membership, an information-based membership, even a community-based membership. If people aren't consuming or they're not engaged and they're not getting value from it, then they're going to cancel because they're overwhelmed. And so that's another great piece of news for all of us, because oftentimes we think that the more content we create, the more value we're providing. And that's actually not it. It's not about the volume of content. It's about the speed to which people can get the result that they're after. And so that means that we don't have to create anywhere near as much content as we think. And that's a big mistake, is people just creating way too much and overwhelming their members.
Yeah, I could see that, because you feel like if I provide enough value, if I just keep providing all this value, that people will be attracted to all this value. But it's true that we got to understand that people can only absorb it.
That's right.
At a certain pace. And so feeling like they're getting wins for the value that we're giving them and moving them along. Yeah. So I totally see that. On the fire, I mentioned to you, we had a subscription box program called the Fire Eaters box. And we actually did that one quarterly because nobody's going to consume that much hot sauce and spicy food in a month, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we just had to paste it out. We put other things in there like, t-shirts and, I did a Fire Eaters journal where you could like grade different hot sauces, like it was a way of keeping track, just things like that weren't food.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't consume it fast enough. There's different models or different mindsets, I guess, around this kind of business model. Like I know I've heard you advocate in the past for having closed with scheduled launches. Some people leave theirs open all the time. Do you have thoughts around that? Like
I'm very opinionated about that.
About doing that. They're like, well, which way should I go? What should I do?
Yeah, I talk about this in my book, Predictable Profits, because it's an important distinction. When I was behind the scenes, and I still am behind the scenes with thousands of memberships that, are powered by our new platform, membership.io, I get to see like what works and what doesn't work. And the distinction that we're making right now is marketing this membership and being open all the time, which means people can come to your website and they can sign up for your membership, or having a closed model, which means they come to your website and it's not open. It's closed and it says join the wait list. And then you only open the membership a few times a year. Now that seems completely counterintuitive. Like every business owner watching and listening is thinking, Stu, like maybe you've had too much hot sauce up there in Canada, but like why would we not want to give people a reason to join our membership? And so this is the first really big lesson when it came to marketing a membership. What I saw behind the scenes was that those who had their membership open all the time grew way slower than those who closed their membership and only opened it a few times a year. Now, why is that? And this is an important lesson. What I realized was that the vast majority of people who had their membership site open all the time were not giving people a reason to sign up today. So people will come to your website and they'll be like, ooh, this looks great. And then they say the worst thing ever. I'm going to save this for later.
Yeah, I'm going to think about it.
I'm going to think about it. And then they never end up coming back, and then they never end up signing up. And so first lesson in marketing is that you've got to give people a reason to sign up today. So even if you do have your membership and it's open all the time, ask yourself, why would somebody sign up today versus saving it for later? And if you can't answer that yourself, then that's a red flag. But that's the essence of why a closed membership model works so well. Because what happened when somebody tells you that you can't get something? Well, you naturally you want it more. Like when I was growing up and my parents said that I couldn't have a cookie, I wanted a cookie even more. You know what I mean? It's like this weird psychological thing. But then when you can't sign up, it makes you want it even more. And then when you do have an open window upon which you can sign up, there's a sense of urgency. Like I've got to sign up now. Otherwise, I won't be able to get in for another 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And so there's a real sense of urgency there. And there's real math behind this. So I have launched, grown, and built multiple memberships, multiple 6-figure, multiple 7-figure memberships. And so I'm like the hair club for men. Not only did I create it, but I, use it too. So I got memberships are something that's, woven into everything that we do. And one of the first memberships we were doing, we had an open model. Now I knew I had to give somebody a reason to join every month. So I created a bonus that would expire at the end of each month. So that was my reason, which was like, sign up before this date and you'll get this bonus. But then my business partner came to me and he said, Stu, I love the membership, but I'm feeling a little bit claustrophobic because it's the only thing that we have on our marketing calendar. And I'd love to create some space to promote some other products, some other books, etc. So it was then that I decided to experiment with the closed model. Like I had been observing some of those few memberships that were growing year over year. I was like, okay, we're going to try it. So now I got to admit, there was a lot of fear because in my mind, I'm thinking, I've got to make as much as I would in 12 months in 4 promotions a year. That's what we were going down to, was like 4 promotions a year. But I'm like, okay, we'll give it a try. So on average, before, with an open marketing model, we were welcoming about 100 to 125 new members a month. When we closed and we went to just 4 promotions a year, we were welcoming anywhere between 600 to 800 new members per promotion. So if you do the math on this, we're welcoming way more members with way less effort.
Double.
Yeah. And so then I was just like, oh my gosh. So then my business partner came to me and said, what if we only went down to 2 promotions a year? And I was like, same fear, Bethany. I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are we going to generate as many new members in 2 promotions as we were in 4? But we tried it. And the crazy part was we went from welcoming 600 to 800 members to welcoming 1,500 to 3,000 new members per promotion. And so again, more members, less effort. And so I have seen it. I've been a witness to it. I've experienced it. The closed marketing model works because it creates urgency for people to buy today. And it's not to say that the open marketing model doesn't work. There are some certainly use cases for it. But in general, you're far better off to close registration and only open it a few times a year, and then build up excitement to those moments when you do open it, and you'll see a lot more members join.
Yeah. So people love the idea of being exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got this and no, you can't get it. And I think as the business owner too, it gives you, you don't have to be in marketing sales mode all the time.
Totally.
So you can have your pipeline built and you just open the pipeline when you're ready to launch and then close it again and focus on your membership or whatever it is that you're doing.
And it gives you more time to just like love on your people, like instead of constantly being in promotion mode, just like you said, you can now spend that time and energy and effort in just like serving your people and loving on them. And that's why like it works for so many different reasons, not just from a marketing standpoint, but also from a retention standpoint, because now you got space to serve your people.
Yeah, this is a model actually I've been hearing recently being applied to just business in general. Like as a marketing agency, for example, having a waiting list for new retainer clients and just say, look, we only have the bandwidth for this many. If you're interested in working with us, get on the wait list.
Yeah.
And it does create that sense of, oh man, they're like full because they're that good. It's
totally
an interesting idea.
In my business, I do 1 VIP day a month. So that's like 1 day a month. I work one-on-one with a client. And so there's only 12 in a year. So to that point, like it creates that sense of urgency. I remember I worked with a designer years ago and it was the same deal. And he was so talented and I was so excited to work with him. And so when I finally was like, okay, Sean, like I would love to work with you. He's like, great. He said, I'm booked for 6 months. I'm like, 6 months? I'm like, dude, like I want to do this project now. And he's like, yeah. He said, but that's just, that's how the calendar works. And I was like, dag nabbit. I was like, okay, well, put me in the schedule for 6 months from now. Like it creates, there's a restaurant that's nearby here. They're only open 3 days a week, 3 nights a week, I should say, actually. But every single one of those nights, they are booked solid, So again, we as business owners, we get to decide how we want to structure our business. And I think that that's the beauty of it. And so I just want to encourage everybody to, sometimes these ideas sound completely counterintuitive, but they also have psychology baked into them because it gives people a reason to say yes. It gives people a reason to join now. And that's a really important thing when it comes to a membership site.
So, I know we're running out of time, but as we wrap up here, what are one or two takeaways that you feel are most important for listeners to remember about today?
Well, I would just say this, Bethany, when I was doing some research for the book, what I was trying to do was I have worked in membership sites for a long time, helping tens of thousands of people. So the book is, essentially everything that I know about growing a profitable membership in 250 pages. Like, this book is amazing for people. But with that, I was still trying to look for some data and some research that gives people even more reason to go and start a membership. And the data that I was finding was staggering. Like, check this out. Since the year 2000, if we compare what things cost in the year 2000 to today, and then we compare that to how much people on average are making, the stats will blow your mind. Like, in the US, as an example, the average salary from 2000 to today has increased 77%. But yet housing prices have gone up 172%. And people might be saying, yeah, but I rent. Well, rent has gone up 165%. And then grocery costs, they've more than doubled since that time. Childcare is now $16,000 per year on average. Healthcare costs is now $13,000 per year per person on average. And so you start thinking about all this and you start to realize, like, what we're making has gone up a little, but what we're spending and what things have cost have gone up a lot. And so the number one stressor of all business owners is finances. Like, where is the next sale going to come from? And so when you couple the increase in expenses, you add to that the number one stress that business owners experience. This is why I'm so passionate about this book and this topic of memberships, because recurring revenue, it eliminates that stress. You are not worried about where the next sale is going to come from, because you'll know with certainty that you'll be getting paid at the beginning of every month by this number of people. And so that's why I'm on a mission to help as many business owners incorporate recurring revenue through memberships into their business as quickly as possible, because it eliminates that stress, it creates that stability, and it gives us, finally, as business owners, the freedom that we started this business seeking in the first place. And so I may get a little passionate about it, Bethany, but that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I want to really encourage every business owner to begin thinking about how to incorporate recurring revenue into their business model.
Well, where can people get the book? I mean, that's the obvious question here. So where can they get the book and where can they learn more about you?
Definitely, you can get the book on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and search my name and or Predictable Profits, you'll see it there. You can also go to our website, and we've got a bunch of additional bonuses if you get the book. And if you go to stu.me, stu.me/book, you'll see all the details there. But I just want to encourage everybody. This is a book that I'm so stinking proud of, because I know how much it's going to help people, especially business owners, just completely reimagine what their business can look like and create that stability that we all seek and crave. And in this book, I've detailed everything that I have learned over the past nearly 2 decades, helping tens of thousands of people launch memberships in every kind of market you could think of. And it is loaded with so many examples and of people in so many different markets that you're guaranteed to come away with ideas. You'll be inspired and you'll know exactly what to do.
Amazing. Stu, thank you so much for being here. I know this has been eye-opening for a lot of listeners. Now they're all thinking, how can I make a subscription model out of what I do? And, they just need to get your book and they can figure it out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Bethany. And I just want to commend you for all the ways in which you're helping so many business owners be able to grow their business. I just think like we as business owners, we got to stick together and we got to help each other. And I just love the way in which you're doing it through the podcast, through your services, and so many other ways.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again for being here.
Yeah, for sure.